morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio, so today I am here to tell you the wonderful, wonderful, wonderful news that exactly as predicted, the card prices for Scarlet and Violet 151, the price of singles for that set, is absolutely crashing. I'm talking about hilarious crashing, ladies and gentlemen. I'm talking about, even compared to a lot of sets we've seen, although to be fair, I'm saying that more and more lately, so maybe this is just becoming the norm. We are seeing the price of these cards just absolutely plummet, and I'm here for it, ladies and gentlemen. I think this is brilliant. I think this is awesome. And I was here a week ago, somewhere along those lines, telling you not to buy singles. And the reason I was here a week ago telling you guys not to buy singles was because this was inevitably going to happen. This always happens. The hype for this set was huge, absolutely huge. And then a few products released and the booster bundle was out there and no one can get hold of the booster bundle because it's a really cool product and it all got a little bit awkward and then it turned out just fine. Like the other day I showed you the Charizard and I showed you that that was initially selling for around about $350. It's just absurd. It's an absurd amount of money. And then it was dropping to about $150. Well, if we look on TCG Player right now, it's apparently like a $120 card. And once again, we can look at the graph, and the graph is kind of hilarious. Now, I will say, it has rebounded from about a $100 card to about $120 after dropping from $170. There will sometimes be exceptions. Honestly, sometimes you'll see a card and it will do slightly better than you might think. And this could be one of them. This is a beautiful Charizard. But to be clear, it dropped from, well, people were initially paying like $350 here. It dropped down to like $100. And sure, it's crept back up again now. Do bear in mind, we've not yet seen the release of all of the 151 products. More 151 products are coming. You know, the Mew Ultra Premium Collection, for instance, has not yet been released. So when we get the second wave of products, there will be another wave of people buying, and these prices are still going to go down. So the Charizard went down quite a bit, and sure, it's recovered a little bit since then. I expect this to keep going down, and maybe it will recover a little bit for a little while, but this set, we've only just begun, ladies and gentlemen. We have only just begun. The other card I showed you the other day, which I thought was hilariously overpriced, was Erica's Invitation, the special illustration rare, which I showed you prices ranging from like $150 to $90. And I told you these were way, way, way too high. What is it looking like now? Well, over on TCG Player right now, we are looking at about a $60 card, $55 card. Now, I will say the graph for this is very, very, very misleading. It looks like it took a sharp jump up on release. I don't know exactly what happened, but for some reason, the first solds or listings or whatever were for $20. And then it jumped up to near 70, and now it's stabilizing down around 55, and again, it's going to keep going down, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to keep going down. So, yes, I am well aware that it looks like it jumped up. I assure you, ladies and gentlemen, it didn't. That has gone down quite significantly, and I don't think it's finished yet. And we're seeing this over and over again with these cards. They come out, and they're super hyped, and then within the space of like 5 minutes, they're just going down again in price. And it's brilliant. Now, one of the most pronounced drops we've seen is actually from the full art Erica's Invitation. People, when that started off, people were touting that as a $75 card. People were trying to sell it as a $75 card. What do we see when we're shaking out a couple of weeks later? It's like a $20 card. And I know that the market price is showing as 24, but the last couple of sales are 20, 23, and 22. That is very, very clearly dropping down to a $20 card. And the thing is, these supporter cards just don't hold their value. And I've used this as an example before, but you've basically got Iono. And Iono is the one card that will actually hold its value in terms of a supporter. But Iono is not your regular, ordinary, everyday, run-of-the-mill card. Firstly, Iono is an extremely popular character, and that absolutely helps. And secondly, Iono is a spectacularly playable card. You know, it's a 2 to 4 of in like every deck at the moment because both players shuffle their hands and put the bottom of their deck and draw a number of cards equal to their remaining prizes. It's a phenomenal card, and yes, I know there are some decks that don't play it and they want to go for Roxanne, etc. over it. But my point is, it is seeing a ridiculous amount of play in addition to Iono being out there. And yeah, that kind of explains it. And there are so many examples I can show you of cards that have just crashed in price. The Pikachu illustration rare, now I will say that like some of the others, this has seen a small recovery. So do keep an eye on the ones that have had a small recovery. Most of them, it's just a temporary blip and they go back down again. But just do be a little bit hesitant. If you see them jumping up, just be a little cautious, maybe hold off a little bit. I don't expect it to keep going up. I mean, Pikachu started at $30 and dropped down to $12 almost instantly. That makes me extremely happy indeed. We can look at stuff like the Venusaur that started life as a $60 card and has since dropped by a third of its value. And look, no, it hasn't dropped down to a $10 card. It's a special illustration rare Venusaur. And Venusaur may be the least cool of the Gen 1 first partner Pokemon, but it is still a special illustration rare of a Gen 1 first partner Pokemon. So it was never going to drop down to nothing immediately. But again, we do see that slight recovery we're seeing on some of them. Keep an eye on that. Just keep a little bit of an eye, ladies and gentlemen. Zapdos, we see a very similar thing. This is, of course, a stunning card that everybody loves. Started life as a $65 card, and it's dropped down to a $40 card. And yes, I know we can look at the market price there on TCG Player, and it says $48. It's not a $48 card. Look at the recent sales. 45, then 44, then 40. This one is very clearly making its way down to a $40 card extremely quickly. And this, again, this is a playable card. It's going to be like a one-of in the vast majority of, if not all, Lightning decks. It was in the list that won the Japanese Champions League over in Yokohama there when 151 became legal. It's a very, 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 very playable card. And it's got all the free birds on it, and there's just so much going on here that is awesome. And then we got Blastoise. Now, Blastoise is a weird one, actually, because Blastoise actually jumped up on release because, and again, this is a little bit misleading, why was this originally listed for like $35? Why was Blastoise listed at less than a bunch of these other cards? So, a lot of the time when we see this, and we saw it a second ago with other cards, when these cards look like they're taking a big jump after release, a lot of the time what's actually happened is there's like one or two sellers who priced them way too low and made it look a little bit weird. But you'll notice it jumped up initially to what people thought was a good price on release, which was about a $60 card. And then it's already down to, well, $47, but clearly still falling, ladies and gentlemen. Clearly falling quite strongly. But there are a couple of exceptions. And if I'm going to bring you this video about cards, dropping in price on release, then it's only fair that I do let you know that yes, not many, but there are a couple of cards that are coming out as exceptions. One of them that doesn't really make a huge amount of sense like that is Alakazam. Now, Alakazam is rocking about a $40, $45 card right now. But the difference with Alakazam over so many of the others is that Alakazam jumped up on release. Not terribly surprising, like I've said, some of them did because they were priced too low initially. But it's holding. And that's what's weird about the Alakazam. Whereas all the other cards we're seeing generally falling down, even if they've had that initial jump, the Alakazam as it stands at the moment isn't. Maybe it's Alakazam and the whole Kadabra thing, the first one we're seeing in 20 years. Maybe it's the artwork, maybe it's the playability and the fact that it can attack from the bench. But keep an eye on this one, because this one is not necessarily doing what we would usually expect. And then we got a couple of regular artwork rares, illustration rares. Not the special illustration rares, just the regular ones. And no, it's not Pikachu, I showed you that, but it's the first partner Pokemon. The first partner Pokemon illustration rares are behaving slightly differently to how we might expect. I mean, the Charmander started off as about $40 card, dropped down almost instantly to $15, but it now has recovered, and the market price says $32, but this one is actually higher than that. All the recent tolls like $38, $39. We see a very similar thing with Bulbasaur, where it started off as a $20 card, dropped down to a $6 card, but has now crept back up to a 20. Although, I mean, I'm not lying to you, it did crash on release, but it's recovered fantastically. And we've got the exact same thing with Squirtle. Started off as a $15 card, dropped down to a $10 card, but all of a sudden it's nearly a $20 card. These are a little bit weird. And some of the artwork rares are doing this. But what I'm going to say to you is, it is a couple of artwork rares. It is really these first partner Pokemon. The rest of them seem to be falling down quite nicely. And you've already seen, on release they crashed. There are some other cards that jumped up initially, but then crashed. These values are going to keep going down. This is my kind of first check-in about a week after release. Honestly, not even a week after release. And about a week after release, to be fair, where the cards are actually in hand and the price is starting to stabilize. Most of them, as we've seen, are going down. From the pre-release prices, they've gone down dramatically, and the vast majority of them are going down very nicely, exactly like we would expect. But there are a couple, like I've shown you, which are creeping up a little bit, so do keep an eye on it. For now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to know which cards from 151 you've picked up. I want to know which ones you've pulled. I want to know what you would pay for each of the ones you still want. So let me know in the comment section. And us, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and card games and Pokemon card games, all kinds of fun things. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.